Howdy YouTube viewers and gear and gadget fanatics everywhere. I've got another product review for you. Movo TX coming at you with another gear review, and I think you're going to like this one a lot because I know I've really enjoyed using this product. This is the Kershaw Storm folding knife, and I bought this knife for 19 bucks at Cabela's, and I've had it for about a month, and holy crap, what an amazing dollar value this has turned out to be. So let's get into it here. So obviously it's a frame locking design, and uses 410 stainless steel to construct the scales. As you can see there, it's a completely pass-through design. There's nothing in between the two scales except for a pair of standoffs, so it should be very easy for me to take apart and service and maintain throughout the life of the blade. The entire knife is held together using Torx bit screws, so you can use your multi-bit set to take the knife apart. Out of the box, all these screws were really tight and really secure, except for obviously the pivot screw, which I had to adjust out of the box. Let's see, the pocket clip is a traditional, semi-traditional Kershaw paddle type design that you see there. It can be mounted on either tip down or tip up carry, but it can only be mounted on the frame locking scale. Okay, so it can't be mounted on the more decorated non-locking scale. So the non-locking scale has this rubberized TrackTech grip inserts, which really make the knife feel wonderfully warm and organic when you're holding onto it. It doesn't feel like a cold piece of metal on cold days. So nice overall, wonderful blade overall in that sense. Blade deployment is by either one of two methods, either using a thumb stud that you see, an ambidextrous thumb stud that you see there. Let's get it into focus. This is a fairly typical Kershaw design that you find on a lot of their knives. Out of the box, my thumb stud had a bit of a rough, coarse texture on it, so I took my sharpening steel out of the kitchen and kind of rubbed off some of the burrs, and now it works great, it works fine. So, you can see I've got a band-aid on here. No, I didn't cut myself. My fingers get chapped in the middle of the winter like this, or in the fall, the cold weather, and it cracks my fingers and they start bleeding and stuff like that. So even with a padded bandage on here, I can still open this thing pretty quick and pretty easily. So nice overall. So that's one deployment method. The other deployment method is by using the finger guard. Nice deep finger guard over here, flips over and becomes a flipper. Okay, so this is my pocket EDC blade, and it's not a very tall, pronounced flipper, which is a good thing for my intended use. I don't want my blade accidentally deploying when it's in my pocket next to the family jewels for obvious reasons. So I want a nice, low-profile flipper that gets the blade out, and that's exactly what it does. I have to use a little bit of a wrist snap to deploy the blade fully, but that's quite alright because it's an EDC utility blade. The flipper by itself only deploys the blade about maybe 75, 80, close to 90 degrees, depending on how hard you push on it. So again, it needs a bit of wrist snap to get it out if you use the flipper. Alright? Out of the box, the pivot screw was a little bit tight, so I kind of loosened it up a little bit. Now that I've loosened it a bit, the mechanics have worn in nicely, everything's really smooth, and I've tightened it up a little bit further since then. So again, I like a tight pivot screw because, again, I don't want to have that blade deploying. So now that I've got it fine-tuned and dialed in, man, it's great, it's wonderful. So the idea being, there's a lot of flexibility and fine-tuning adjustability in the pivot screw design. So if you want a loose, free-flowing blade, you can do that. If you want a tight, snug-fitting blade, you can do that as well. So great design overall by Kershaw. Let's talk about the blade steel. The blade steel is a Sandvik 13C26. Kershaw uses this steel on a lot of their entry-level knives, and hey, it works great for me so far. I box cut with this knife at work, hack through like Costco blister packs. This could very easily be like a light-duty campsite knife, no problems at all. Edge holding, haven't had a problem with it, but at some point I'm going to need to sharpen it, so and I'll see how that goes at that time. So the best feature about the knife is the blade shape. It's got a wonderful deep recurve belly shape, and if you ever, I'm relatively new to knife ownership. I've owned like a cheap M-Tech all my life, and if you've never used a deep recurve blade before, man, what it does is that recurve angle creates a downward force as you pull the knife through whatever you're cutting. So if you've ever used, like at a barbecue, a thin steak knife or something like that, where you're constantly pushing down on it to cut through your meat or whatever, that deep recurve blade, all you have to do is just move it back and forth, and the recurve in that blade creates a downward force to really cut through whatever it is you're cutting. So wonderful, wonderful blade shape. It is a hollow grind. Kind of wish it were a flat grind, but for 19 bucks I can use that. The edge itself, the actual knife edge itself, is a V profile on that, so it's not going to be the easiest knife to sharpen. Okay, so I'm going to have to level up my sharpening skills with some diamond rods or something like that. A sharpening system, I think. I don't think I can use a traditional whetstone on this. I'm going to have to use a sharpening system to try and dial the blade sharpness back in at that point. So I'll worry about that crossroad when I get there. Out of the box, hair shaving razor sharp. Unbelievable quality for a $19 knife in that sense. So there you see the Made in USA designation and the Kershaw model number 1470. So there's actually a bigger version of this knife called the Storm 2 that's model number 1475, and everything's basically scaled up. So this is a 3-inch long blade length. The Storm 2 I think is about 3.5 inches long. So as an EDC pocket carry blade, 3 inches is perfect for me. I love it. So let's see, talking a little bit about USA Made. Kershaw is the manufacturer, and it's a Ken Onion design. So what that means is you're getting Ken Onion's input and expertise on a fabulous design, but mass-produced by Kershaw in USA. So you get basically a marriage of best of the both worlds. So let's take a quick glance over at the Ken Onion website. Holy crap! Unbelievable knives on his website. Same type of theme. Deep belly recurve, slight recurve blades. Unbelievable. So if you can't afford one of these things, but you still want a hint or the flavor of it, here you go. Thank you Kershaw for making this a possibility for everybody. Unbelievable. So what else can I talk about? Blade lockup. Man, solid blade lockup. There is no flex, no slop, and no play in this mechanism at all. So I showed you earlier, I've had knives like, my M-Tech, and even my Columbia River, has quite a bit of, not slop, but just flex. The entire assembly has quite a bit, or noticeable amount of flex in the pivot joint. So I've been carrying around. You saw my other video on this knife. I'm going to have to add some footnotes to this review here to warn people about that. So I've been carrying around some pretty sloppy blades my whole life. I didn't even know it. So hats off to Kershaw, and thanks Kershaw for such a wonderful, tight, solid design. So that frame lock is solid. I mean, that intersection there between the blade stock and the frame lock is unbelievable. It's just really solid. It snaps into position, and you feel it when you open the knife and the blade locks up. You feel it when you're carrying the tool and using it. So that's pretty much it. I love this knife. I think I got a great value here for you guys. I hope you guys enjoy it if you go out and decide to buy this one for yourselves as well. Might also want to consider the larger 1475, the Storm 2 as well. So I'm enjoying the Storm as my pocket EDC blade, and I could see this as being like the gateway drug for a lot of other Kershaw designs. Ken Onion is just one example, but there's a couple other designers that partner with Kershaw, and it works out great. They also have their zero tolerance line of their higher end knives. Man, some great zero tolerance Kershaw designs as well there too. So getting into that as well. So anyhow, hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you later. This has been a product review of the Kershaw Storm. Thanks guys.